Welcome back. As we earlier said, of course, Merry Christmas to all of you. And of course, as you all know, that the Egyptian Orthodox are celebrating Christmas today, and or celebrated Christmas yesterday rather. And of course, yesterday was a magnificent festivity that was held at the Cathedral of Nativity, the new administrative capital, and the whole of Egypt is celebrating this very inspiring event. And also we all have observed that President Abdel Fattah Sisi have attended the celebration and gave an inspiring speech. And on that occasion, a lot is happening. Today, not only one sect of society is celebrating Christmas, but all sects of society in Egypt are celebrating Christmas, and Egyptians are in general rejoicing together. We're going to be talking about the festivities of Christmas at this time of the year in Egypt, and also about religious tourism, because Egypt at this time of the year is one of the top destinations for celebrating Christmas, and also for those type of festivities, and for spending the Christmas holidays. A lot of reasons to be coming over at this particular time of the year. We're very delighted to be having with us here the tourism expert Youmna Salama. Good morning, Youmna, and Merry Christmas to you.
Good morning, Dina. Good morning to all our audience watching us, and happy feast to all the Egyptian Coptics all around the world.
Let us first talk about the most important aspects of celebrating, or the most important features of the festivity of celebrating Christmas in Egypt, especially at this time of the year.
Well, the first thing we notice in the streets of Egypt, although Egypt is a country that has the majority of the population Muslims, but when Christmas time starts, even according to the different calendars, you start to see the Christmas trees. I see here you have Christmas tree in the studio as well. So you start to see the Christmas tree, you start to see the decorations of Christmas, you start to see this in shopping centers, you start to see it in malls, in restaurants, in hotels. So people are actually celebrating Christmas regardless the religion, whether they are Muslims or Christians. You start to see also the churches here in Egypt preparing with all the decoration and also all the religious preparations for the Christmas. And the Egyptian Copts also doing everything they normally do to receive the feast, which is trying to prepare for the banquets and for the dinner and breaking their fasting. So it's actually a feast and a festival that all Egypt celebrates together. And yesterday we witnessed the service at the cathedral, and of course His Excellency President Abdel Fattah Sisi joined, and it was really, really impressive to see all the Egyptians, Muslims and Christians, during the service and welcoming the birth of Jesus Christ together in this magnificent church.
Of course, there are certain features also that characterize the Egyptians in their own right. Of course, as you all know, but this is the normal for the festivities of Christmas, but for the traditions that are associated with Christmas festivities for the Copts, it is something special that you will never find it anywhere else but in Egypt. Yes. Like you said, that Egyptians, they hold the festivities in the streets. They held the Christmas carols in all the streets, even in Midtown Cairo, regardless of what religion they are.
Exactly.
And the exchange, the candies and the cookies, Christmas cookies, and
that's true.
All these, I mean, the signs of this particular very beautiful time of the year, you find it in every home in Egypt.
That's
Talk
true.
to us about
Even in my home. I have a Christmas tree in my home, and I was talking to my friends, and one of them yesterday, actually, she told me, I told her happy feast and all that, and she said tomorrow morning I will be busy after the service at church, and after attending that I will be cooking at home, ready for the entire family to gather together so they can eat together during the feast day. So this is something very, very traditional and very historical as well, because the Egyptians, let me make the link here between Egypt today and Egypt during the ancient Egyptian times, because it's very important. This is our roots. We are the pharaohs are
The
our
pharaohs, and we are
ancestors.
Egyptians. Egyptians are the Copts.
Yes,
The
before
origin
the
of
coming,
Egypt is Copts.
before the coming of the Arabs and before the coming of Islam around 640 AD, the majority of the population in Egypt were Coptic, were Christians. And Egypt is blessed with lots of holy figures who walked on the land of Egypt. Of course, mentioning right now Jesus Christ, Joseph, Virgin Mary coming into Egypt, and the Holy Family route into Egypt. This country is blessed, but not just that. Many prophets passed, and many prophets has a link with Egypt. Let's go even backwards and look at Prophet Abraham. He married an Egyptian. And if you look at Joseph, son of Jacob, here in Egypt, and if you look at Moses, and then Jesus Christ, and then Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, may peace be upon them all. Prophet Muhammad married an Egyptian Christian, Maria. So all this is not really strange for the Egyptians, because the holy figures were here, the prophets were here, they walked on the land of Egypt. This land is blessed, and celebrating religious festivals in Egypt goes all the way back to the time of the ancient Egyptians. If you look on the walls of temples, of tombs, we have a calendar of more than 100 festivals and feasts in ancient Egypt, and the majority of the feast, if not all of them, has religious significance. So the Egyptians celebrated, and they danced, and they sang, and they ate, like you mentioned, and they had decorations, by the way, in the temples in ancient Egypt. Also, they will hang decorations and colorful flags and music and drums. All this we still do today. If you
And
look,
even when Amr ibn al-As came over to Egypt, the same thing was that. It never ended.
you're definitely right, because this is our nature.
Exactly, exactly. This is very much true. We're going to be touching on that particular very special topic that you raised right now. But let us talk about celebrating Christmas. Surprising number of Egyptian traditions, many traditions. We only numbered like 2 or 3 or 4. They survived from ancient pharaonic era and until this very moment. Perhaps one of the most is the Coptic calendar. How could this implement how Egyptians abide by traditions? The Coptic calendar is very well known here, and it has a story, and we have to relate it to our viewers probably who did not visit Egypt, who are probably not Egyptians. We are Copts by origin, and regardless of what religion we are, like you kindly said, we celebrate, and we even hold calendars. We follow the calendars, the Coptic calendar, and a lot of other elements. Talk to us about that important aspect.
Well, it's very important to shed light on the word Coptic itself. The word Copti, it comes from the Greek language, and Copti, it means Egyptian. It doesn't mean a religion. It means Egyptian, because this is what we referred this word to refer to the people of Egypt. But later on, because they were the majority, later on the word was used after the coming of Islam and the Arabs, was used just to describe, as you kindly mentioned also earlier, the Egyptian Christians, the Coptic. They are the origin of Egypt, or the majority of the population before the coming of the Arabs. The Coptic calendar is very much related to the ancient Egyptian agriculture calendar, because the ancient Egyptian society was an agriculture society. So the calendar that they used for agriculture continued to be used later on, and even after the coming of Christianity into Egypt. And this is very important, because we always say Christianity came into Egypt twice. The first time by the coming of the Holy Family, Virgin Mary and Jesus Christ, still as a baby. And we know the route of this journey into Egypt. And today, you can visit churches and monasteries, every place where the Holy Family stopped and stayed in for some time.
The stops.
Became the stops, exactly. And one of the most famous, of course, here in Egypt and in Cairo in particular, is the church of Abu Sirga, which is known as the Church of the Holy Family, where you can go under the church into the cave and see the place where the Holy Family actually stayed in for some time. All those places are blessed holy places, and that was, as I always say, the first introduction of Christianity into Egypt, which was, we can consider it an informal one, because Jesus Christ was still a baby. But still, we cannot deny the fact that he was seen by the people of Egypt. Now, the second coming of Christianity into Egypt, Saint Mark Apostle. Saint Mark Apostle coming later on during the time of the Roman, around the 2nd century. And when Saint Mark came, he was in Alexandria. He went to Alexandria. And let me tell our viewers a very interesting story about the coming of Saint Mark. When he came into Egypt, still the religion was different. Many religions actually mixed between ancient Egyptian religion, ancient Greek, and others. So Saint Mark wanted to fix his sandals. So he went to a Greek shoemaker in Alexandria. His name was Anianis. And while Anianis was fixing the sandals of Saint Mark, he hurted his thumbs. So he said, "O Theos." "O Theos" in the Greek language, it means "O God." The words of this Greek shoemaker encouraged Saint Mark to teach him about God in the concept of Christianity. Bit by bit, the discussion between them, Anianis, the Greek shoemaker, became the first Christian in Egypt. And from his shop and his house became the first place for gathering all the people, all the Egyptians who wanted to know
The spark.
about Christianity, the new religion. And as the Egyptians are always in fever for religion, they gathered, the numbers started to increase, and today this place is the Cathedral of Saint Mark in Alexandria, the exact location where the Greek shoemaker had his house and his shop. And despite the fact of the persecution of the Romans to the Egyptian Christians, the number increased and increased. Since we have today, still the Egyptian Christians are part of the society, and they continued to be and they played a very important role during the history of Egypt at all times, and still till today. So we are very much lucky to have this history about the coming of Christianity in Egypt, about the Copts, and about the calendar that we still use, and even the language. They say it's a Coptic language. This is a mix of the ancient Egyptian language and ancient Greek. Still, you can only hear it in the Egyptian churches.
Of course.
They can only learn it in the Egyptian churches. So this is something very important.
And we have some words, even in our language, the Slango language, which is
exactly
Coptic also.
Exactly.
Let us also focus over the course of the trip of the Holy Family,
Yes.
which is very, very much significant. Gives a lot of signals and significance about the signals that God have given to peace be upon her, Virgin Mary, and
her.
baby Jesus to come over and take refuge in Egypt. ادخلوها آمنين.
Yes.
It gives a lot of significance about how this land is a holy land, and it's very much blessed. God have chosen it over many countries in the region for Virgin Mary to come and set her feet on and take refuge in it with her companions. And even stops, every stop have a different story to be related with a different wisdom.
Yes.
We need to stop at this particular...
Well, Dina, this is a very important point, and I am very, actually, I don't know if we have time to talk about all
Of
the
course we
stories,
do.
but actually, you said, mentioned in the Holy Book, the Quran.
It's very much related to Christmas, that's why we...
Yeah, and mentioned also in the Bible, arise and take the mother and the child and go to Egypt. Can you see, actually, as you said, this is also mentioned in the Quran, as you said, enter Egypt with peace. ادخلوها آمنين. That's the message from God. We need to look at that as Egyptians, that God is telling us in both religions, in both holy books, that Egypt is a safe place. Whoever enters this country will enter in peace, from the ancient times all the way till today. So they entered in peace, they stayed here. And if you look at the map coming from Jerusalem, passing the Sinai and stopping at places in the northern part of Sinai, and then going towards the delta, and then to Cairo, Giza, Cairo, and all the way to almost the middle of Egypt, where we have the monasteries in Egypt. And then returning back, I kind of tell the tourist, when we look at this map, this is exactly the touristic plan. This is how the tourists actually go today. They come from the north, they go to the south, and they go back to the north to fly for their final departure. So the Holy Family actually came, and we don't know exactly, according to different historical resources, how long exactly they stayed. The time is between 1 year to 3 years, but it's quite a miracle to see the route they passed and all the miracles, like, you know, the tree of Virgin Mary, and then the miracles that happened in places where they stopped, the miracle at the Muqattam hills, where we have the monastery of Sam'an al-Kharraz, all those miracles and stories. And when you listen to that from Egyptian Christians talking about the appearance of Virgin Mary in such places, because these are places connected to where they stopped. And of course, it's all based on a belief. So if you believe in something, you would believe in the wonders and the miracles that will happen along the route.
But also every destination have a different story.
Yes.
Like the tree, for example.
Yes, yes.
Like the monasteries that she has stopped, and like stories that were related during that path that is also related to Christmas. So if you like to remember with us or take a flashback and relate some.
Well, as I mentioned, the story of the tree of Virgin Mary, and we have also the story of the appearance of Virgin Mary at the mountain.
That is very popular until this very moment. Where is it located exactly, if you like to?
In Mataraya.
In Mataraya.
Yes. In Mataraya.
Why is it so popular?
Well, because actually this is a sort of a holy tree. Again, when I talk as an Egyptologist, mentioning the holy stories, or the wonders or the miracles, it's all based on a belief. So maybe if you look at it from a scientific point of view, you would think, okay, maybe this doesn't really sound like a true story, but because of the strong belief that we have as Egyptian Christians and as Egyptian Muslims, we believe in such stories, we believe in such miracles and wonders.
Other stories?
Well, these are the stories that I can recall now, and I don't think now in every place there is a story, in every monastery, in every church. So we have also one of the most beloved places, actually for myself, and I think lots of Egyptians will agree on that, is Sinai. And the mountain of Moses in Sinai, and the monastery of St. Catherine.
I was going to talk about it.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Of course, I was going to talk about it, because this is a totally huge, inspiring, also history, St. Catherine and the Mount of Sinai and all that. But let us talk again, continue, wrap it up with the Holy Family, because the government have realized the importance of this particular trip and the significance of that to Egypt as a holy land and as a place for peace, mentioned by God in many parts of the Bible. And there is a confirmation by God, you should take refuge there, you should feel safe and all that. And that's why a new type of tourism have been, or that inspired the government, the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Tourism, to create the ecotourism, planting more than 1 million trees all around the course of the trip. Talk to us about it, because it's very popular online, and they are promoting for it, and it's a very good idea. It's a very inspiring idea for people to attract tourists also. People ask in particular for that particular trip. Why?
Well, Dina, this is a very important point, actually, what you're mentioning, the religious tourism. And I still personally believe we still need to put some more effort to enhance this kind of tourism in Egypt. Because Egypt is blessed, as you mentioned, and as we always say, not just to one sect Christians, but you have Jews, you have very important holy places.
Yes, we have Jewish tourism also.
We have Jewish tourism, we have Jewish temples that we restored
We have
recently.
synagogues,
We have
already.
synagogues. We have the mountain of Moses in Sinai. We have for Christians also huge amount, not to mention only the route of the Holy Family,
course,
but also
downtown Cairo.
other monuments and churches and cathedrals, and the Muslims as well. We have the Ahlul Bayt, the people of the house, the relatives of Prophet Muhammad. We have lots of ancient mosques. So religious tourism is very important. If we look at what's happening now, as you mentioned, all the efforts that has been done, but still we need to put more. The tourism sector need to work on promoting this. We have here in Egypt religious tourism, but not as we wish to have more numbers, more people coming for the religious tourism. And therefore, we need to sell programs only for religious tourism, like selling the Holy Family route into
Exactly.
Egypt. The Holy Family route, Egypt, Jordan, and Jerusalem is sold worldwide, and people coming from Europe and from the States to do Egypt, Jordan, Jerusalem, or Jerusalem, Jordan, and Egypt, because this is the bigger Holy Family route. But we still need to sell our own part, the Egyptian part. Let's do the route from Sinai all the way down to the valley, to middle of Egypt, and come back. We need to sell this. We need to make exhibitions.
And this is exactly what's happening. Planting the trees.
Planting the
in
trees,
order
but still now we need to do
be
the
able
marketing.
to cope with the sustainable development goals.
Exactly.
You've talked also about the Mount of Sinai and the story, the inspiring, the history behind the Mount of Sinai. It was also mentioned in the book. Talk to us about it.
It's mentioned in all books. It's mentioned in the Torah. It's mentioned in the Bible. It's mentioned in the Quran. The place is a holy place for all three religions. And this place, Dina, as I said, it's like my favorite place. My favorite place to go. You feel you are being taken on a different spiritual level, to sense the area. And Sinai is also a very blessed, important, precious part of our land, Egypt. And we are very proud to have the story of Moses. And of course, when we go back even during the time of the Pharaohs and the Exodus, they actually got lost in the deserts of Sinai. And he climbed up the mountain to talk to God in that particular area, to receive the commandments here in the lands of Egypt, to come down with the commandments. And also, later on, let's jump in history and talk about Christianity. Saint Catherine, this beautiful young lady, and Saint Catherine, and how she fought for her religion, and how she stood against her aristocratic family and all that for the belief, and how she became a holy figure. And the monastery of Saint Catherine, which is still today run by Greek monks from the time.
That's true.
Exactly. And all that. And the coming of the Arabs and into Egypt, and passing by Sinai. And also, we used to have actually in a copy from the declaration of Prophet Muhammad in Saint Catherine. This is very important. The last speech of Prophet Muhammad, when he said, you will live the day to enter Egypt, and when you go to Egypt, take very well care of the Egyptians, especially the Egyptian Christians, the Copts. No churches shall be destroyed, no monasteries shall be burned, no priests shall be taken away. They shall practice the religion in freedom. That was actually what Prophet Muhammad said, and this was stamped by his own holy stamp and hanged in the monastery of Saint Catherine, a copy of that. It's known as Al-Wasiqa Al-Muhammadiyya, or the Muhammadian declaration, and this declaration was also in the museum, and people would see how all three religions here in Egypt combined, holding together as the Egyptian society today, and as you mentioned, everyone is celebrating.
And how Muslims,
and how
that
Muslims,
Prophet Muhammad believed in the
course.
importance of that.
He married an Egyptian Christian, Maria al-Qibtiyya,
Yes.
or Maria, and in addition to that, he said to the Arabs, you're coming to Egypt, and take care of the Egyptian Christians, and they will practice the religion in freedom and peace forever.
There is no better note than this inspiring quote that you just related. Thank you so much for reminding us of that important quote that came in Al-Wasiqa al-Muhammadiyya by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Peace be upon him.
On that note, we're going to be ending it here. Of course, our tourism expert and Egyptologist, Youmna Salama, thank you so much for coming, and Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you, Dina. Thank you, Nile TV, and happy peace to all the Egyptians around the world and everybody.
Thank you, same to you. And we're going to go to a short break, and we'll come to continue the breakfast show, so stay with us.